I'm rolling with Colin Kaepernick. I'm rolling with Colin Kaepernick, number one, because I think he's got the better team. Number two, because I think he has the experience. He was in the Super Bowl last year. He didn't just win a divisional playoff game along with an NFC championship game. He went to the Super Bowl. That second half, I mean, basically, Skip Bayless and others have made the argument the only thing the 49ers did was run out of time. So when I look at it from that standpoint, then I look at the year that he had, which was subpar to some degree, didn't have a great completion percentage. But I've always said that, you know, once the playoffs come around, the ball's going to be put in his hands more to do whatever he wills with it, as opposed to being at the, you know, mercy of Harbaugh and those boys. And I just think that Colin Kaepernick, I think that listen, I got nothing but respect for Cam Newton, but this is really the first go-round for him.
Right.
I think Colin Kaepernick has an edge. Combine that with, I believe, a better team. And I think that there's no way on earth that I could pick Cam Newton over Colin Kaepernick. I would have to go with Colin Kaepernick right now. Over the long haul, I think that Cam Newton is elevating. And I think the best is yet to come with him. And I think in the years to come, Cam Newton is the one that's going to be being talked about in the way that we were talking about RG3 last year, in the way that we're talking about Andrew Luck now. Andrew Luck, even though we talk about him as a passer and a pure quarterback, I think Cam Newton is going to be a playmaker, and we're going to look at him differently than we've been looking at him. I think the best is yet to come. But I also think that right now, Colin Kaepernick has an edge, and I don't think that can be denied.
I often preface my answers to questions like this with, this isn't even close, but this is close.
Oh, okay.
Very close. I thought about this last night, and I went back and forth. And I'm not doing this just for the sake of debate. I decided last night, before I even knew which way you were going, I'm going with Cam Newton. And I would not have gone with Cam back in August. I have seen so much growth in him this year on and off the field. And I am thoroughly, deeply impressed. Remember, once upon a time, he was the first pick in the draft. And on this show, I had no problem with that. I had some issues with his accuracy in the national championship game against Oregon. And I thought that could be a little dicey early in his career, and it was. But Stephen A., I cannot argue with his improvement this year when he improved all the way up to 24 touchdown passes to only 13 interceptions. That's dramatic. And what I love the most, 4 game-winning drives. And they were big stage, big game drives against the New England Patriots. Big night, Monday night? I wouldn't know.
It was
Monday night, yeah. Monday night game.
When
Remember that one?
When you felt the Patriots got robbed.
They got robbed.
Yes,
but before that happened, they got a little lost in the shuffle. They got a little overwhelmed by what happened. Gronkowski. Come on, that was interference. Stop it. Okay, back to Cam Newton. Just before that, he took his team 83 yards in 13 plays, capping it off with 25 yards to Ted Ginn for the go-ahead touchdown. Impressive. New Orleans Saints, crucial game at home late in the year, capped it off. 65 yards, 5 plays, 14 yards. Remember this? Dominic Hickson. Beautiful. Touchdown, game-winning drive. These are big deals to me. Now, I thought Colin Kaepernick, and I was a big fan last year. Remember, I advocated right away. You got to go with him. Now, I'm sorry. I've seen enough of Alex Smith. Colin Kaepernick, I thought, regressed a little bit through the regular season. Now, I thought he played great the other day at Green Bay, but he did it, as you know, more with his legs than his arm. He had some nice throws, but he had some bigger runs. By the way, Cam did lead the NFL in quarterback rush yards this year, so he can do that also. Yeah, thank you. And yet, big games this year, big losses this year. Colin Kaepernick, and I love the QBR stats, 0 to 100, had abysmal QBRs. Remember the loss to Carolina? Let's just start with that one. At home, he has a QBR of 8 on a scale of 100. That's awful. Now, Cam wasn't much better, and it was 10-9 Carolina, but then against Indianapolis and Andrew Luck had a 12 QBR. Really? Boy, that's terrible. And then at Seattle, where they always struggle, he had a 14 QBR. Well, I just didn't see enough from him this year that I said, oh, I see marked improvement. He leveled off. I have no idea why Jim Harbaugh does not let him run the read option anymore. They just don't do it anymore. I thought that helped.
Well, I thought they were doing a little bit of it Sunday against Green Bay.
I saw a couple of them, but it wasn't. His big runs were off scrambles.
Yeah.
Okay, so fine line, close call, but Cam impressed me enough. I would go with Cam.
Yeah, well, first of all, we don't do anything for the purposes of the debate. We say what we feel. That's number one. Number two, when I look at Colin Kaepernick, again, I believe he was being restrained. He was being held back. You could let him loose last year, number one, because you wanted to see what he had. Number two, because you had Alex Smith that was going to come back.
Yep.
This team is all Colin Kaepernick. If he ain't out there for you, you're in a world of trouble. If he didn't pan out last year, Alex Smith would have came in, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. So if you have that kind of insurance policy, you can afford to take more risk. But that was not the case with the San Francisco 49ers this year. So I believe that Harbaugh was holding him back. And I believe as a result of it, what we saw with him against Green Bay this past weekend, we hadn't seen from Colin Kaepernick pretty much all year.
Totally agree.
And so because of it, like I said before the game, I said you were going to see him be unleashed to some degree. And I think the same applies with Carolina. That front seven is legit. Okay, we all know Kuechly and Thomas and those boys. I mean, one game here, he had 24 tackles.
Yeah.
You know, Thomas had 14. These boys are sensational. And when you've got that with Hardy and those boys rushing the passer, Colin Kaepernick is not going to be able to be effective unless he's running the football.
Agreed.
This weekend as well.
Yep.
You're going to have a spy out there if you're Rivera to make sure that you keep eyes on him at all times because he is going to look to run. And so as a result of that, if you're Harbaugh, you've got to unleash him and let him do that. And I think that's when he is at his best.